Pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America
and
and
to the
to
republic
the
which is
stands
stands
one
one
nation,
nation under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for
for all.
This meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts, March 28, 2025 order, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GL Chapter 30A, Section 20, allowing remote and hybrid meeting options for public bodies through June 30th, 2027. This meeting is being recorded. So we're starting the meeting with the review of submissions, and we sent out a timeline so that everybody didn't have to come in on and wait all evening. And we're starting off with the application of the Westport Land Conservation Trust, a drift road conservation area, CR, for $300,000. Ross Moran is the potential project manager. Ross, you want to go ahead and say we've seen the application. We'd like you to give us the highlights.
Absolutely. Thank you, Betty. For those who don't know who I am, my name is Ross Moran. I'm the executive director of the Westport Land Trust. We own about 1,800 acres across town and have just about every single one of those acres open to the public in a variety of ways. We've partnered with the CPC on multiple occasions to preserve hundreds of acres, most of the time to open to the public to enjoy, whether that be trails, whether that be park-like areas like Westport Woods, or other means of fishing, hunting, sport, and across town. So thank you very much for having me this evening. We are currently working on a project off the northern end of Drift Road on a 28-acre property that we would acquire to open to the public. It's a really special one that meets a lot of the criteria that the town has outlined for preservation in various plans, namely the open space and recreation plan in town. The 28-acre property currently abuts 23 acres that are already preserved and are scheduled in the future to be open to the public. And has about 400 feet of frontage on Drift Road. It has a significant amount of characteristics that folks are looking for in town. One, we're looking to preserve the ecological significance of the property. It possesses Kirby Brook, a section of Kirby Brook, which is a cold water fishery resource here in the state of Massachusetts. What does that mean? That means that it's one of the very few cold water streams left in Massachusetts that supports native brook trout. In 2023, at the mouth of Kirby Brook, there was a survey done by Mass Wildlife fish biologists, and found some of the more substantial sized brook trout in all of southeastern Massachusetts in Kirby Brook. So a really unique resource that we have here in town and on this property. It also contains several vernal pools, as well as crucial wetlands for the stream, and a variety of upland forest habitat. That's a good picture right there, Tim. Tim, I think you're scrolling right there. Perfect. The property's outlined in red there. Other green on that map is other preserved land in sort of that Drift Road corridor area. In addition to the ecological significance of the property, it has some really interesting cultural significance. It was once a small family-operated orchard supplying fruit in town. It's currently abandoned, but it is a really interesting story for folks who lived in that Drift Road corridor, and it's something that we would revive once acquiring the property and tell the story of. We've been very lucky to partner with the Historical Society on getting information out on new interpretive panels across our properties. You might have seen them at Herb Hadfield and Dunham's Brook. Thank you, Jenny, for all your help with that. So we would do something similar here to interpret the cultural significance of the property. And I mentioned that it would be a new public property, and it's a great accessible area for folks to be able to get into. It would have potentially a nice 1 mile loop in between two properties, this one and others, to enjoy, and it has a really unique landscape. It has it has some grade to it, a really nice hill that then leads down into the brook and the wetlands. So it's an attractive property to enjoy for the public. Currently, we're working towards getting securing the agreement to make this all happen. To make this project happen, it'll cost a little shy of $1.3 million. $1,285,000 is our projected cost. That includes acquisition, the setup and care of the property into the future. How we have partnered with the CPC in the past is at the simultaneously at closing, the Community Preservation Committee purchases a conservation restriction to help fund the project at that time. What that CR does is guarantee perpetual public access to the property, as well as overseeing our care of the property and ensuring the conservation values are always conserved long term. So that's kind of the highlights, Betty. I'm happy to share any more, and of course, happy to have any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? John?
Ross, looking
Yes,
at that map, it looks like there's some buildings on that property. Are there any buildings, and what would happen with the buildings?
There currently is a building on the parcel that you see in that map. What would happen is it would be subdivided off, and the owner would retain them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
what we would be acquiring would not have any buildings on it. Yeah.
Tim?
Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
I'm just wondering, we're facing some fairly hefty projects this year, and we're going to have to make some hard decisions. Ross, how hard is that 300,000 number in terms of what you need from us?
Sure. Thank you, Tim. That's a great question. Our work has been getting harder and harder because land prices have continued to explode across town. Right now we are working pretty hard at looking at leveraging a variety of funds. As you can see in the budget, we would be looking at some funding from the state as well, which we have a long track record of getting. That's about the max that the state would give for a project like this. We would also be securing a lead gift for this, and in addition to that, some additional private funds that total $650,000. If we had to raise more than that 650, I'm not saying we couldn't do it, but it might be tough, Tim. So, I tried to propose a number that I think was reasonable and was in line with what we've proposed in the past for properties for acquisition. And I think we've always done a good job of leveraging additional funds. We never come to the CPC asking solely for the funding for the project just from this committee.
Good answer.
Ross, who would be holding the restriction?
The town, the town of Westport. I would consider at a later time. It's possible that it would be interesting to consider co-holding it if the town would co-hold it with the Buzzards Bay Coalition, because this is a very significant water resource. It would be something that we would ask to consider, but certainly not contingent at all.
Ross, could you say a little bit more about that it's considered a very important water resource? Say a little bit more about Kirby Brook.
Sure. So Kirby Brook, so there are several what we call cold water fishery resources in Westport. These are streams and brooks that support native brook trout. There are 5 in Westport, and arguably 6. And there are about that many left in all of southeastern Massachusetts outside of Westport. So it's a really unique resource. And in addition to the habitat that these streams and brooks provide, what these streams and brooks do is filter a tremendous amount of water headed towards the East Branch, in this case, the East Branch or the West Branch of the Westport River. And so they're invaluable from a number of different perspectives.
So Tim, we've been looking at the financing available. We've just received the last 2 days what our situation is, and given what that some of the other projects have reduced significantly their ask, it looks like we are in a position to be able to finance the request. Whether we do that or not is another thing, but things look better than they looked last month.
It looks like we had another question there. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, the question is Deborah. I believe.
I'm just curious on how these numbers work on the purchase price of 1.125. Is that an option that you have? Is it locked in? Could that change? What period of time is that purchase price good for? Is my first question. And secondly, the $100,000 for enforcement endowment. How many years is that supposed to last? Is that supposed to be forever? That much money is set aside for, protecting the conservation restriction and any other things that would fall under that? I don't understand how this works over time.
Sure. Great questions. So the purchase price, there is potential that would move northward. We would absorb any of those costs if it moved northward. I'm currently we're right at the moment in time, as I said in the application, of finalizing this. And so that it's possible if it moves northward, we would absorb those costs. We'd find a way. We wouldn't be asking for any more money from the CPC. So the stewardship endowment and CR enforcement endowment is a fund that we manage internally that is meant to support the care of our properties in perpetuity. Because of who we are responsible for these as forever. And so our calculus and our strategy has always been, when we acquire some land, we set aside money in an endowment to continue to care for it into the future. So that money is, typically raised privately and then contributed into our endowment and then managed, according to our policies.
Great. And when do you think everything goes according to plan on this budget? When would you expect to execute on the purchase?
We would hope that would be in early January.
January of
2026. And to execute the purchase itself, I'm sorry, so that would be to get the finalized agreement. To execute the purchase would be no later than December of next year.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Philip?
Well, I just wanted to echo Ross's the significance that Ross put on the ecological values of this, because of projects that have come before the Conservation Commission, in the proximity of cold water fisheries. And one of the things that happens is with development, you get water withdrawal, groundwater water withdrawal, which kind of can threaten the existence of the fishery, because as the water levels get drawn down, it increases the potential for the stream going dry or just for heat rising in the stream. So, and without getting in any details, the wetlands regulations kind of don't preclude having these kind of well developments in the proximity to cold water fisheries. For big wells, yes, there's a whole second analysis that gets done. But, for the kind of projects that could get developed on the size of this land, there's often not a lot that the commission can do, to prevent the wells from being sited. And then also because it's a tributary to the river, you get nitrogen from septic systems that would end up, flowing into the river. And the more north you go on the East Branch, the greater the nitrogen concentrations are. So it would be great to preserve this. And I hope I don't have to recuse myself because I just live up the road from this. So this would be extremely convenient for me, but I think I can maintain my independence.
I'd also like to say that we will be doing our own appraisal to see if the CR is at the proper rate. We do that with all this kind of project.
Yeah, the CR is a lot more valuable than 300. So
We still have to do it, Russ.
absolutely, absolutely. We've done it many times together. Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Comments? Okay, should we pass this on to the January meeting? Or do we want to wait and vote at the end of all of them and have holds? Let's do that. Let's wait until we've been through all of them, and then we'll make our decision to pass it on to January. January the 8th, we will expecting you back, Ross, probably.
Thank you for considering it. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Ross.
Have a great evening.
Thank you. How about this? 6:50. The Westport Historical Society Bell School clapboard repair, 49,000. I am not sure who's presenting. I think Jenny O'Neill, perhaps.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Jenny is the executive director of the Historical Society.
Okay, thank you, Betty. We'll do our best to keep you on schedule. So as Betty said, I'm the executive director of the Westport Historical Society, and I guess that we are a familiar face to CPC. So I thank you for giving us yet another chance to present this project to you. So I will talk briefly about the scope of work and a little bit about our funding sources. But wanted to start by encouraging those of you who have not visited the Bell School in the last couple of months. I think it would be very useful for committee members to come and see the impact of the CPA grant for the Bell School project. In some ways, the project feels complete to me. On the inside of the Bell School, everything is up and running. Our office is there. We've just recently completed the exhibition space and display areas for donations of objects as they come in. We have a lovely meeting place, audio visuals, and we have just wonderful facilities now to store our collections. So I would be more than happy to give any of you a tour. We had a very successful open house at the beginning of November, a 3-day open house. We had a non-stop stream of visitors. Everyone had a lot to say, a lot of interaction. And we have another open house coming up on Saturday, January 17th. So perhaps some of you can make it to that event, or if not, just give me a call and I'm happy to give you an on-site tour. So to talk briefly about the scope of this particular request, this is to repair the clapboards on the exterior of the Bell School. This was, one of the surprises, the many surprises that one can face when dealing with a historic building. This was a surprise that was discovered by our contractor when they were removing the drywall from the inside. They could see daylight, basically. So the clapboards are significantly deteriorated, and they're in a variety of different conditions. Some have underlayment Some are nailed directly to the sheathing, and none of them have been back finished. So what we gather from that is that over the years, in the way that small nonprofits work, it's been patched up over many decades. But it is a serious issue for us, and our contractor advised us to defer painting the exterior until we tackled this issue of the clapboards. So we have really spent the last year kind of tackling this question and how to go about it and where to get the funding. But we are going to move forward with this request, which would replace all of the clapboards with materials that are, let me give you materials that have been vetted by the Westport Historical Commission. So Weston red cedar clapboards, they will be pre-primed. The clapboards will be replaced with like items with the same exposure that exists at present. So basically, no one will notice any difference. And once clapboards have been replaced, we will be able to move forward with the painting. The application also includes some funding to assist with replacing window trim as well. So that was another issue that the contractor identified as they were working on the building last year. So that's a summary of the scope. I did want to talk about funding because I know that's a question that you as a committee rightly have. You know, we don't want to become dependent on CPA funding. So I reviewed our funding for this most recent phase of the Bell School project, and we have raised $420,000 from individual, private donations and foundations. So that's 420,000. And we have received 460,000 from CPC. So we're doing our best to balance what you give to us with our own funding efforts. And we last year received a cultural facilities fund grant of $40,000, and that's from the Massachusetts Cultural Council. So they are up in Boston, and it's always nice when people in Boston acknowledge the value of things far distant from Boston in Westport. So, I think that's worth noting that, we're able to get some support from other areas in Massachusetts, shall we say. We are also using our own funds. We've been fortunate to have received some bequests recently. So we have had to draw on those funds to cover costs of purchasing storage furniture for the collections, for example. We have covered the cost of the installation of the exhibition that you will see when you come to visit the Bell School. And as you know, there are many sort of indirect costs. One of them, as an example, is builder's risk insurance. These take chunks of money out. And so we have been funding those with our own existing funds, generally received from bequests.
Yeah. Okay. Deborah, could you say a word about the Historical Commission's?
Sure.
Sure.
Yvonne came before us in two meetings, actually, both November and December meetings, to talk about this clapboard issue. And she provided a lot of information and then even had a site visit with one of the commissioners, Mark Thompson, I think, went and visited and spent quite a bit of time. And then they came back to the December meeting and we talked for a long time about clapboards. It was quite a discussion. And Garrett did a proposal to recommend that we should support this this repair and replacement of the clabrets. He wrote a letter to that effect to the CPC, making the recommendation official from the WHC. So we endorse this project. We think it's appropriate materials that have been proposed by Jenny and her team. I am not as clear on the change order versus new bid rules that Betty has talked about. Maybe you can go through that, Betty, but I think based on everything I've seen and the fact that they already have an existing contract with Deloitte to continue to finish the work, it doesn't seem like this is outside of, it seems like they should have a change order because they have the same contractor. And I would think there should be a way for us to allow them to use the same contractor, and it might even violate their contract if they go outside that that relationship that they have. So I think it's a little complicated to just say, go get a new bid. It's not that simple, but we endorsed it. You asked me about the WHC, and we recommend go ahead.
I'm sure the CPC members might have noticed that there was a request to just do a change order. Normally, something at this level would require solicitation of 3 bids. We haven't been asked before to do this. I have tried to consult with the Community Preservation Coalition to see if they have any experience with this. And the person, Stuart Saganar, who you all know, is out of the country. I was unable to reach him. I will speak with him, of course, before the next meeting, and then we will give CPC a chance to talk about this a little bit. It seems reasonable to allow a change order. I just have to see if it's legal. So that's basically it. A couple of other questions I've asked recently. I've been told that there's nothing in the CPA about that. So if that's the case, then it's a decision by CPC. Hugh, I see you have your hand up. Hugh Morton.
Yes, I just wanted to point out that I need, for reasons with which you're familiar, I think, I need to recuse myself in connection with this project.
Okay. Fine, Hugh. John?
Yeah, Ben, I got a question. I saw on listserv that you guys were having trouble with insurance. Has that been corrected?
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't really, it's not relating to this, but yes,
Well,
insurance.
it kind of is if you don't have insurance on it.
No, we do. It's just, it's doubled. It's an astronomical amount, John. So, I was reaching out on the listserv to find out whether this was happening to other organizations, whether it's just us. My feeling is if it hasn't happened to other historical organizations, it's going to. This is just an issue with in property insurance in the South Coast area. Plus, it's their old buildings. So it was a huge shock to all of us to find out what our insurance is going to be going forward. We are paying it, but it's a huge amount, and we're trying to explore whether we can find other options. So
Okay.
I can assure you, everything is fully insured.
Okay, thank you.
So this listserv is, if anyone's interested, is the Massachusetts Historical Commission listserv. You can join it. I've used it a lot. You ask questions and very experienced people answer them, and they give you advice. I saw on that issue, you had several responses to it, and often they can figure out a way that you can manage this. So any historians who are interested in getting on that listserv, I can help you do that. Are there any other questions? I wanted to again remind CPC that CPC has required a preservation restriction on the Bell School, given the amount of money that CPA has put into this project, and also the importance of the building. So it's one of about 3 buildings in Westport that have preservation restrictions. One of them is 1603 Main Road and Handy House. So the Historical Society manages 2 of our 3 buildings that have preservation restrictions on that. And when we require a preservation restriction, we have to pay for it. The preservation restriction is ready. It's waiting in Boston at the Mass Historic Commission for one person to sign it, and then it will be valid. So that's a good way to protect our money and our projects. So if there are not any other questions for tonight, later we will vote on sending it through to the January 8th meeting. So we will keep you informed. We'll inform you tonight. I'll send out an email. Thank you very much, Jenny.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Okay. What time is it? 7:05. Hey. So the next project is the Macumber School playground replacement. It's not completely clear how much money will be asked for, but at the present time, the hope of the committee, the potential project manager, is that they will be asking for $300,446. I wanted to say a little bit of history about this. 2 or 3 years ago, I saw this item on the as a budgetary item, and I was thinking they should come to the CPC. This is the kind of thing the CPA funding is used for. Playgrounds, as long as the playground is available to the public at least a significant portion of the year, which this one will be. So therefore, it's a valid project for CPA. And I'd like for Michelle Raposa, I believe Michelle is here. I don't know if the principal is here.
I am, and
Yeah.
Roy, our new superintendent, is on as well.
Okay, so
Hi.
Hugh, did you want to say something before they started? I can't hear you, Hugh.
Sorry. I just want to raise one question. Recently, the school department decided that tennis courts could not be used in conjunction with the new high school, et cetera. Not relevant to this, except if this is a question of things to be used, playground and so forth. If that is not available during school hours, that would be a question. I presume that's probably not the case, but I just wanted to confirm.
Yes, the application says that the playground will be available, as will the tennis courts, outside of school hours, not during school hours.
Yeah, but tennis courts used to be available. I'm not going to get into that, but I'm saying
They
there was
did.
a question. I just wanted to inquire as to whether there would be any question or not in connection with the playground.
Your question, Hugh, is will it be available during school hours? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is correct.
The answer is, Ms.
I will-
Roy?
Yeah, I can respond to that. Honestly, we've worked closely with Chief Dunn. I mean, given that, given the sort of the reality we live in right now, in conjunction with Chief Dunn and best practices, we do not allow the public to use our grounds while school is in session. However, as soon as school is out of session, yes, we welcome it. Our tennis courts are being used by the public as soon as school is out. And certainly if we're not, if we're not in school, unfortunately, the world that we live in, it is not considered a safe practice, and certainly working closely with both police and fire for us to have the general public, have our grounds open to the general public, unfortunately, while
Yeah,
school is in session.
I was not going to argue the issue with the tennis courts, but if the playground is not available during school hours, then that's most of the day. And I just wanted to be sure if that is the case, that's a question. If it's not the case,
Mhm.
keep it different.
The,
Michelle, do you have anything to add? Yeah, it's not going to be available when school is in session.
Which means basically every day during the school year.
Well, the weekends it would be open anytime after 3:30 every day during school vacations, and all summer long it is available.
Not the school year, yes, thank you.
Correct.
Tim, it's the same topic?
Yeah, I think it would be useful to know what time of day school is out and it becomes available. Is it like 2:30 in the afternoon?
8:30. So usually by 8:15, our students are all dismissed at the Macumber School. We have families that will pick up and go right to the playground. So by 8:15, 8:20, the latest in the day, it's available.
8?
At night?
3:30, I'm sorry.
Oh.
3:15, sorry.
That's the morning.
Actually, this was mentioned this was discussed in the application.
Yes, it is.
And 3:30 on school days and weekends and all summer and school vacations, it would be available. That is typical across the state, Tim.
Right.
For any school playgrounds, yes. Any further questions on that before she can start her project? Okay, Michelle?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone, also for the opportunity for us to produce this proposal for you. We're looking, as Betty said, we're looking for a total of $300,446 from CPA for our Macumber School playground. In May, we had a certified playground safety inspector come out that assessed the playground. The current structure, he had said, was recommended to be for a complete replacement. That playground has been there for over 25 years. I've been with the district for 25 years, and the swing set and a lot of the equipment that is there is the same equipment as it was when I started at the Macumber School 25 years ago. Currently, it is not ADA compliant. We don't feel that it is safe from many of the pictures. As you can see, there is a lot of rust edges. We continue to close it off, try to repair or remove parts of the playground as we go along. So it is considered at this point, many of the areas are not safe, and we do have to exclude the kids from playing on certain areas. We're looking to relocate it because, as Dr. Roy has said previously, in this day and age that we're in, unfortunately, the playground, as many of you know, if you've gone by the Macumber School, the playground is very close to the road and is fenced in over there. Our plan is to move it to, there's like an L shape of the Macumber School. Our plan is to move it right in that location that's very close to the school. So that way it keeps the kids safe in that area. We're not planning to fence it in right away because we also started a farm to school program a few years ago, which we have gardens outside there where the playground will be installed at the same time. So we're looking to keep that area open at this time because as we go along, we're planning to expand our farm to school program as well as installation of the new playground. We have gotten 3 quotes as we've gone along. The original quote for the entire project is about $450,000. We've also spoken to the highway department, who in the past has always, and they've been very kind and generous to offer some assistance in removal of the existing one, leveling the area that the playground's going to go in to help with some savings there. And we did request from CIPC this year, $150,000 for anything that's offset with the demo prep of the land, concrete curbing, rubberized surface, any of the surveying that needs to be done. So we have worked very closely with Highway and some of the other vendors. Right now, we have not selected anyone, obviously, until we see which way this grant goes. We do consider it a vital piece of not just the school, but the community. Many of our parents use the playground often. I think anytime you'll go by, you'll always see parents out there with their children playing in the playground. It would make it ADA compliant if we were able to put in the new Macumber School. It is in a really great part of town. The building itself, we've done lots of work to the building with the help of CIPC and just our own maintenance department taking care of it. So the hope is that this is a community use of property and equipment that would be used for years to come, 30, 40 years from now, as the current one has been used.
Other questions? I have a question. If you don't get the CIPC project money, what happens?
I think if we don't get the CIPC project, I think that we would still be able to complete this project with the assistance also of, I know that Westmac PTO has offered to help with any of the ADA compliant equipment. They've offered to install swings that could be down the road once we're completed and whatnot. So I do think that we would be able to get the project over, whether it be a 1 or 2 year plan, even if we get the installation done and the new equipment, and then the following year with our own budget and with maybe the help of CIPC and the MAC PTO to complete the project.
So this amount, 300,000, why don't you round it up? How about 300,500?
Sure.
Is what you're actually requesting?
Yes, please.
Okay. Could you talk about, I know that you've consulted the Recreation Commission, and I'd like to know what they had to say. I know Tim is here. I don't know if Tim wants to say it or.
The Recreation Commission is not opposed to this project. They support it.
Okay, and I think you gave a lot of it. I saw a lot of advice from Dana.
Yes, Dana was
Yes.
extremely helpful in the process. CPC was not actually a direction that I had even thought of going, to be honest with you, at the time. And I had spoken to Dana one day, and she had said, you know, it's a great opportunity. I think it's a request that you should reach out for. It's a community used piece of property, and you know, it's a great thing for our community just to use. So with her help and also just working together with you, Betty, as well, I couldn't have been more helpful to have both of you on board, all three of you on board with me.
John, I think you have a question, John Bell?
Yeah, would this be instead of the playground at Bicentennial Park?
Would it, I'm sorry, say that again, John?
Because I know there was talk about replacing the playground at Bicentennial Park.
Separate project.
I understand that, but would we need the two of them now? Seeing that they're within eyesight of each other.
The question is, are they duplicating each other? We gave funding to the Bicentennial last year. And my understanding, and you can correct me, Tim, is that it's quite a different kind of facility. Is that right?
Well, the playground itself is part of a bigger project, which includes the basketball courts and the area behind, but it's not really accessible to young school children that need a playground that's right outside their building. If they had to be led across the parking or the property and along the road to get to Bicentennial Park, it doesn't feel like a safe alternative to just having the one. Having one, which is the plans that I've seen, it's smaller than the one at Bicentennial Park, and I think it's an appropriate one for that building, and I think it's appropriate for it to be in that close proximity. Bicentennial Park, I don't consider it available easily to the children of the Macomber School.
Hugh?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I think the Bicentennial and the Central Village playgrounds are sort of orphans. They have no connection with anything else. They stand there. This is a child of the school, which is fine. That's nothing negative. It's just different. But it seems to me it's a little different, and I understand the security issues, which I do not challenge. But if you move the playground around from where the road is, sort of behind the school, it becomes more and more the school playground and less something that individuals from the community more likely to use because they think they're intruding in the school playground. I know it's catch-22 and the ideas of moving it are perfectly legitimate, but they just point that out as part of the package.
Michelle, do you have anything to say to that?
I think we could potentially put a sign basically with a community playground, you know, we can, so that people would know that it's accessible with the times that it's available. I think that would help draw people to that. I think we do a great job on our website that we have and putting things out to the community so that we could make sure that families do understand how the use of it is. I think that would be helpful.
I think that's a good point. I think also emphasizing that this is not, you're not intruding into the school's jurisdiction. It's for that. I think that's a good idea.
Right. So we would spend a lot of time pushing out on social media, a lot of that information. And then I just talk briefly about what John had mentioned. So we had over the past, I bet you 15 years or so, and even when I was at that school, one of the issues that we had going over there, like the kids would always say, oh, we want to go to Bicentennial Park. We go there on the weekend. So we would sometimes have a field trip to Bicentennial Park. One of the issues over there was there was no bathrooms and it was a long haul to get kids to come back in if we needed to. Two, it was always open to the public. So you had a lot of older children that were there, and sometimes like the language was not appropriate for the group that we had or whatnot. But I mean, we had entertained and used that a few times, but sometimes it's just not age appropriate, like Tim had mentioned earlier today.
What about cameras? Is there any for security? What do you
Yeah.
have? Yes.
We have cameras inside of our buildings, not in the classrooms, and we do have them on the exterior. And we actually had received funding over the last couple of years because we've been increasing our cameras for the inside and also the exterior of the building, because we do have kids that stay after school for things. We have staff that stays after school. So we have gone and increased our security for lighting and cameras as well. And they can be all seen by our SROs at the elementary school and the new middle school, high school.
So you will be able to see the playground from
Yes.
the building? Okay.
All right. We can see it right now as well.
Okay. Anyone else have a comment? I'd just like to say one thing. When we thought about this project and when Michelle made the application, I did go to the Community Preservation Coalition to discuss it with them. The reason is that it is a town building. It is a town playground. And their suggestion to me was that it's very important that the school also financed a portion of it from their own funds, because it will not be available to the public 24 hours a day. However, many projects are not available and they're considered public projects. In historical projects, for example, it only has to be open one day a year. In some cases, that's open to the public. So again, we were a little bit, I mean, the argument that you cannot use the playground during school hours is valid, that it is a security issue. But there is a lot of other times that it will be used. They will be used. And secondly, the town is putting in funding and a lot of work to it. So, I mean, we're asked for 300, they're putting in 150,000 or more themselves, and the maintenance and upkeep. Finally, the security of the playground for our school children. An old playground has problems. And people get hurt. And I have heard that some children have been hurt. And so the purpose of the new playground is to protect the children from being injured, and also to allow disabled children to utilize. And that's something that right now is hard to do. So according to my investigation into it, it is an acceptable project and the kind of project that's being done all throughout the state. Do someone else have a comment? Okay, thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you all. Thank you for.
Thank you.
allowing
We
us-
appreciate your consideration.
Yes, we do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
great
you, Ms.
night.
Roy.
Thank you.
Okay, our next project is Westport Youth Athletic Association. Project proposing 5 tennis courts with 10 pickleball courts within. Construction of this and for $400,000, and the applicant, project manager, is Martha Sullivan. We have already discussed, I don't know if you were there, Martha, to listen, but the issue of the fact that the schools do not allow the use of their facilities during school hours. So we won't discuss that. That's a done deal. And I think you kind of knew that. So please go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you. I did hear the discussion there, and that's been our impression for several weeks, actually months. So I know there's a lot on the agenda tonight, folks. Thank you for reviewing our submission again. I'd just like to offer some brief remarks and then make sure I entertain any questions. Just a quick reminder about why we're here, and everyone I think now understands that we've been restricted from use. We really tried to make it clear in the application just how restrictive that has been and the impact that it has on the community. The point is that we're not here looking for a luxury project for the town. We are trying to restore a benefit that existed for an important part of the community, actually for over 20 years. We talked about the fact that during the 6 months, there are about 8 months you can play outdoor tennis. 6 months of those are during the school year. During those 6 months, we're reduced by about 70% of daytime access to the courts. We also tried to put in some information to provide data that supports the experience that many folks have, the difference between playing under night lights versus daytime. And it's quite significant. That data is in the application. But we made a lot of progress since the last time we met with the committee. We have done, I think, a lot of research, some hard work to reduce the overall cost while maintaining quality. And that quality piece is really important.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? I'm sorry.
Of course.
I'm presenting what looks to me like the same thing we had last time, but I don't think there's a newer version of this application, is there?
Tim, this is the new version, and you are presenting the new version.
So you still have concrete costs in here?
No, what I'm trying to demonstrate in this part of the application is that we've reduced the overall cost, and I'm showing you the comparison. Our original submission
Yes.
was for post-tension concrete.
Thank you.
And so you can see now the difference between post-tension and asphalt cost. What we learned in engaging with folks is that if we maintain standards, and this is really important, ASBA and USTA standards on asphalt, we can get the long-term performance that we need. And so now the basis for this new application is asphalt courts. At the same time, given the significant reduction you see here, it's about 50%, that's given us the ambition to increase the number of courts. And so now, instead of 3 post-tension, this represents 5 asphalt courts. These are flexible courts, so they can be 5 tennis courts, they can be 10 pickleball courts. The idea is to provide as much flexibility to the public for use to make them productive for everybody, and most importantly, available for everybody. Some of the other things that we've been able to accomplish, we really think that this format now provides, it's a better project. It provides a lower cost, and it serves a lot more people, and we feel that's really important. So I think you understand what we're asking for here. I'd just like to make sure the committee understands the momentum that we've built on this project and the public interest that it has. So over the past 3 weeks, we've lowered the cost, as I discussed. We've secured private funding for $100,000. We have foundation grant applications in process. Really happy to say we have a very professional volunteer team, including a construction oversight manager who has managed tennis courts being built and their maintenance. So we're really happy about that and appreciative. We have a professional grants writer on. I think Laura has joined us, and really importantly, that's allowed us to begin to think about our public campaign. So we have that in the ready. We're calling that Courts for Our Community. And so I think the point here is that this level of momentum really reflects the demand and our confidence in being able to execute this project. One of the reasons we've been able to bring more people along on this is the equity that this presents in the demographics of Westport. So if you think about where most of the town money goes, and quite frankly and respectfully, where a lot of recreational money goes, it is to support the children of Westport, and we know that that's really important. This is a project that supports seniors, families, and youth and after-school programs. So we're excited about it. We appreciate your attention to it. I'll pause here and entertain any questions.
Martha, could you talk a little bit about your plans for maintenance?
Yes. So what we hope to accomplish is fundraising beyond what you see we've committed here. And by doing that, we would develop a reserve, and the reserve could be used for maintenance. If we're not able to do that, our plan would be to actually put a framework in place, which is an annual fee for use. And so, what we'd have to do then is provide key tag entry to locks at the court, and that would come with your annual submission, and that money would then be used for maintenance. The idea here being the focus here is Westport residents and their guests. So that's the way we would approach maintenance.
And I'd like to say that I checked out the use to be able to do this under CPA funding. And the coalition told me there is nothing in CPA that prevents this. And also even giving preference to Westport, there is nothing in CPA that says that you can't do that. So this is within the scope. I think Hugh had his hand up.
Yes, I did. A question. Who is we in this context? What I mean by that is we're familiar with WAA, et cetera. It sounds to me there was a suggestion made last round of a club or something of that nature to be an entity that would control it. I'm not necessarily promoting that. I'm just saying that sounds like you've made a lot of progress in terms of ways to deal with it and user fees, all of which make a lot of sense to me. So the question then that comes to me is who is we in the sense of I can see there be a club that leases on some basis from the basic owner, et cetera, and so forth. I don't mean it has to be that way, but I think it would be useful to have an idea of what the structure would be, and that carries with it where the funding sources, grants, donations, and projected user fees would be very helpful.
Yeah, so the way we're going at this now, Hugh, is we're really doing it under the 501(c) of Westport Youth Athletic Association. We've had a number of discussions with Ken.
Okay.
We are segmenting these funds, so we have our own bank account, but the entity will be WYAA. The we in this is this particular group that is focused on this very specific project, and that includes Ken, who's been quite helpful in getting this done, if that answers the question.
Suggestion, not tonight, obviously, but as part of the package as we go to consider it in greater detail, they have that spelled out. So it's there it's not freestanding, it's related, but I understand what you're saying. We used to have it articulated for the presentation.
Okay, that's how, thank you. And this may be stating the obvious, one of the really great synergies here is there's room on those athletic fields to put these courts in place. And then it actually brings together a wide swath of the community between families that are playing baseball, between the walking path to be developed. So there's a lot of value in being able to coexist in that location.
One private question. has Viper converted to pickleball?
He's not yet gone to the dark side, Hugh.
See, one of the advantage of having it at the WYA facility is there is a conservation restriction on that property. So it will remain recreation. And
Mhm.
that's very important to us. It's hard when you have that's harder when you like have Macomber School. Will they still be a school 25 years from now? This is not a requirement of CPA, but it's something that we should be thinking about. And then last year we approved the special court. They call it the senior court. And again, that worked in the same way. That it's on the WYAA under their 501(c)(3).
Another thing I just wanted to throw in, I understand that WYAA is a 501(c)(3). Clubs are not, they're 501(c)(7). So whoever is putting together or distinguishing between the pieces needs to carefully look at how those things would work. In the nonprofit is frequently used in the wrong way of things that are not charging profit, not expecting to make money. That's different than charity, which is 501(c)(3), and that's where the deductibility comes with a charitable organization. So I'm not offering any opinion on it. I'm just saying that as the pieces get put together, somebody needs to look at that very carefully, because that could be a problem.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Good. Tim?
Yeah, sort of an extension of Hugh's comments, but more specific to the management or scheduling of the courts, because I know that pickleball courts, there's just such a huge demand. People have to take tickets and wait for an opportunity to play. And I'm wondering if they're going to crowd out the tennis players or whether there's going to be some organization that's going to be very careful about scheduling these things. I mean, is that part of your plan, or is that going to be left up to some private group to put together?
No, I mean, I think ultimately, we have to have an implementation plan. And so thinking that through, we have that problem today, to be honest, Tim. We have it over at the high school, and it ends up being first come, first serve. If you're in the situation where you're paying an annual fee, that becomes more tricky. And so you have limitations on how long you can play. You could end up having a sign-up sheet. It's going to be really important that we find the most automated way to do these things, because at the end of the day, it's going to be volunteers. And so we've got to think that through.
You could use some software that might do that for you.
I think so, exactly.
Yeah, but you have that problem with any kind of organization like this, though. I mean, you're going to have the problem of usage.
Yeah.
You just have to do your best. Deborah, I believe you have a question or comment?
Yeah, just more of a comment following on what Tim said. Mark and I spoke about this in between the two meetings too. There are some good examples of how to do scheduling. Various towns have public courts and they use a website that's dedicated to scheduling, and you have to be a resident in order to get access and login credentials. So there's definitely some software ways to manage scheduling. I think you have to sort of wait until you see what sort of demand there is to then design the right sized system, because you may not need a very fancy system to try to get people on the courts when they want to play. And there are a lot of examples out there that are already in place. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So, and I'm happy to, provide Martha with some examples of that.
And Deborah, looking at the Wellesley site was helpful, because I don't have credentials, so I couldn't get in and schedule anything, but it was obvious that was available.
And doesn't Ken have this kind of issue too? I mean, with the football, the basket, the soccer field, not soccer.
Oh, the softball, baseball.
Yes.
Because a lot of that is league play, there is a schedule. So the leagues, there are some similarities because there's a fee for joining the leagues, and so that's managed inside of the leagues. So there are some analogies there, Betty.
And the Agricultural Club will have some scheduling material for tennis and golf, which is obviously belongs to the club, but at least they could point you in the right direction if they're
That's right.
vendors to that.
That's right. Yeah, I'm confident we'll find the right solution. One thing I would like to mention to the committee, we're very aware that there are like very worthy projects that you are all looking at. In this particular case, there is a timing issue, and there is some urgency, and that is because, as we stated in the application, there's a window during which you can build tennis courts because the ambient temperature matters. So if we're not able to start construction, in the spring, then we're waiting probably a full year to get that done. So that's one of the considerations I'd ask you to think about.
Yes, I have. And of course, and I've asked Nicole, the accountant, to tell me, my understanding always was they were available as soon as the town meeting was over, if it was financed with reserves. But I've asked her a couple times and haven't gotten an answer. She said she would give me one. I've also am waiting to hear from the coalition, what they say, and I can get back to you. And I will do that before the January meeting.
All right, thank you, Betty.
Any more questions or comments? Thank you very much, Martha.
Thank you, and thank you to the
Back
committee.
January 8th, if we all agree to that at the end. Thank you very much.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
So the next project is the historic school number 15, which is now the American Legion Hall. They want to put in a ramp, and they have a price of $32,500. I have noticed that that was just a number that was given to us, and there was no backup for that. I've questioned that to both Paul and Mari. They received that quote from an experienced contractor, and they will be getting that, the reasoning for that, what's involved, etc., for the January meeting. And I believe it's Paul Schmidt who will be presenting tonight.
Yes, yes, it is, Betty, and thank you very much for you and the committee members for putting us on the schedule. And thank you for the earlier appropriation, which was presented to the town. As you could see from the pictures in the presentation, the building just looks fabulous now. And there it is. This wonderful one-room schoolhouse that was across the road sometime, I think, in the 20s. It was picked up by a group of volunteers and moved across the road, put on and made into the second floor of a two-story facility. And the facility is leased to the American Legion. And we in turn have made the second floor available to the Boy Scouts. And in addition, the Coast Guard Auxiliary meets in the building from time to time. And we have aspirations for making it much more of a community building in the future. The money that has already been appropriated is almost complete. We have just enough left to make our bathroom ADA compliant, and that is about to be started now. So at this time, we have come before you to fund a ramp leading from the second floor down to the parking lot. And you're looking at the building right now from the east. So you're looking at the east side face is in the sunlight. The north side of the building is in the shadow, and it's along the north side of the building that the ramp would be constructed. Earlier, you've seen a very nice sketch by Tim Gillespie showing the ramp. The only difference is that we've concluded that we can do the ramp with two ramps, if you will, rather than three. So it would take up less space in the parking lot. The material would be the same material that we used for the porch on the south side of the building. I wonder if we can scroll down. We saw, yeah, right there, that, for instance, that building, that picture showing the south side shows the new porch, which was constructed as part of the work that's just been done. And we would propose using the same materials. It's a wood-like material. The ramp, the floor of the ramp would be in gray material, and the banisters, if you will, would be painted white. So it would harmonize with the existing building.
Okay,
And I think,
any questions? Okay, I'd like again for Deborah as a historical commission representative to say what the historical commission thinks about the project.
Yes, they came before us at last meeting in December, and we discussed this project quite a bit. And the Historical Commission has issued an endorsement of this project. Garrett Stuck created a letter and provided it to Betty in time for this meeting. So the Historical Commission endorses the project.
and many thanks to the Historical Commission.
Could I, Paul, get you to spend a few minutes on, remember, you weren't the commander, but previously we approved a ramp, and then you changed it, or others changed it to a lift, and then you decided to do a ramp again. I think the argument that you're giving, although a lift would not be as obvious, and a ramp is, why did you decide to go back
Sure.
to the ramp?
Betty,
Yeah, Betty.
can I add one more thing though that we did discuss? The ramp design changed quite a bit. It's no longer 2 turns, it's just 1 turn. So much reduced from what it was originally designed, and the commission liked that quite a bit. One person on the commission did discuss a lift, and we overwhelmingly thought that was not a good idea since it's outdoors and it's very difficult to manage machinery when you have multiple people who need to exit the building. And we did discuss
That's what I
that.
wanted Paul to talk about. But you just talked about it. So
Yeah.
is that, Paul, do you have anything else to say?
No, I think, Betty, that's a very good explanation. We thought a lot about safety issue, and having a little lift outside in principle sounds wonderful, but it's very hard to imagine one working in the middle of the winter, and a lift requires a generator in case the power goes out at the time you need it, and a lift works for one person at a time, and it works slowly. We're very concerned about safety issues and feel that a ramp is the way to go.
Hugh?
Note for the record, I am a member of the American Legion, but I don't think it rises to a conflict.
No, it does not. Okay? Anything else? So, Paul, as I said in the beginning, if you could please, for our records, have Brian Valcart write up how he came to the figure of 32,500 or near that for this project. We will need that in January. If you could get it to us about a week before, or the first, right after the New Year's.
Understood, Betty, and we'll do that. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm wondering if it's possible to get a more definitive drawing than what I've seen so far, which is basically a pencil sketch. Is that possible or annoying?
It's annoying. I tried to do it.
Tim, let us see if we can't respond to your request.
Tim, you have a reason that you wanted that. You had a question about whether it would work, I think.
Well, I know the reason that I designed 3 slopes was that's the only way I could comply with ADA and fit it in on the side of the building. But if the grade gets raised, you could get away with 2 slopes. Maybe that's what's happening. I don't know.
So a better sketch, a better drawing, a better engineering would be very helpful.
And clear, what Tim is saying is basically,
Yeah.
is this a correct, will this be a correct ADA
Yeah.
compliant for all the raises? Because he researched it quite a bit.
Just
Yeah.
having the elevations and what the total rise is and how that's being achieved with 1 inch to the foot. That's all I'm curious about.
Tim, when you say that it could be raised, what do you mean? I don't
If the
understand.
grade is raised where you're launching the ramp from, then you're already higher. You need to walk out of the parking lot and maybe have a little walkway that comes up to the beginning of the ramp.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know what Brian has
Well,
presented. I should probably look at his
we-
sketches in more detail.
Yeah, we touched on that at the Historical Commission, and my recollection is that the grades were checked, and therefore the ramp, the slope of the ramp was still safe, even losing one of the turns. That was what was said to us. Now, whether or not that engineering can be provided to show that, but I do agree, 1 inch per foot is the slope that's required. And
Yeah.
we were told the grade was appropriate for the 1 turn instead of 2 turns.
Well,
It could be that it advances further east than my construction did.
yeah, I think that it would be wonderful if you could talk with Brian, Tim. We really need that by January 8th.
Yes,
We need
were,
that. We need the 2 things from Brian, the write-up of why he, where he got the number 32,500, and also to be sure that we have the dimensions right on the ramp. Otherwise, it can be problems down the road. We want this to be finished. We've had trouble in the past, and we want this to be finished and correct.
we understand the need, and we'll definitely work with Tim in advance of January 8th meeting, get that done.
And you realize that, Paul, that you still have to go out for bid. for
Yes.
3 bids. And that just because it was drawn and so forth, does not mean that he gets the information. We will be giving you a liaison to work with you and tell you and Maury what are the requirements as far as CPC is concerned for bidding and contracts and all of that kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Betty.
Okay. The next project is the Harbor Master building restoration and upgrading. There's a little history to this. What I said to the Harbor Master at the Historical Commission meeting is this is more a place setting for January rather than a straight application. And you can see that in the application that there are some missing features. This came before the Historical Commission, and I would like just, if you want to, Deborah, to say a few words about what you all suggested and what Bill went away with.
Okay, so we had a preliminary review at the Historical Commission because we did not have an application to review with drawings and plans. So we instead had an open discussion about what needed to be done potentially and what kinds of ways they should approach such a project in order to be in compliance in the historic district. So we provided them with our guidelines and also with the kinds of things that we would be looking at when they eventually present a plan. We also discussed some other major issues that we thought they should consider, which would be whether or not we were required to have disability access in that sort of function, and whether they should consider resiliency and flood and storm inundation into the building. If they're about to put in new improvements, will those be at risk with an inundation? So we wanted them to at least look at it and consider it. I offered up another Westport owner on the Point who had just done similar work, moving her shed, elevating her shed and moving it a little bit closer inland, and offered up some information from that project if they wanted to consider it. Otherwise, we told them they need to come and give us an actual application with all the details, and we would consider it. We could possibly get them on the docket in the January meeting if they could get it together by December 17th or so and give us a full application. So that's the timing that we suggested and the kinds of things that we encourage them to explore.
Okay, so CPC members, this is the first, it's a town building in the historic district applying for CIPC funds as well as CPC funds. So it's quite complicated. This is quite complicated. And it's late at the end of the cycle. Something like this probably should have been started months ago in order to get this project approved or recommended to town meeting. However, we're giving the opportunity to Bill to discuss this with us. This also being a town project, it's subject to prevailing wages, which means that the costs are much greater in many cases for the work to be done than it would be in a private project. So it's complicated. Before Bill starts, I think, Hugh, did you want to say something before Bill starts?
Yeah, I'm simply going to be the Grinch at the moment. Since the marine facilities have their own source of income from this, that, and the other thing, I don't have anything against the project, but wondering whether it isn't more appropriate for their own resources rather than CPC, which is more generally for the town as a whole.
Okay, so that's something that Bill could address. Okay, so Bill, John, is this something preliminary?
Well, maybe I'm missing something here, but is that building historic? Why are we even discussing historic preservation?
Because
It's in the district. It's in the district. It has to be under.
It's not, okay, well, but it may be in historic district, but is it a historic building?
John,
There are many buildings that we have purview over that are not historic buildings, but they're in the historic district.
well, what, John?
Yep.
The requirement, I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's not an old building. It's not known for its culture and contributions and so forth. But the statement of the chair of the historical commission at the meeting was that it is a very, it's a central building in the area. It's seen by everyone. It's in the historic district and it's on the inventory. And the requirement for CPA funding is simply, if you look at on our website, is that it be on the historic inventory.
But the
Or-
building's on
or-
the historic inventory
It's
or
on
the
historic, it's on the historic inventory.
the
it
building is?
The building.
Yes,
What
As
year
is.
was the building, what year was the building built?
John, it doesn't matter. It's on the inventory. My house, for example, was built in 1931 and it's on the inventory. So
Well, yeah, I would agree with that, 1931. Yeah, I wouldn't question that, but
I think the harbor
But
was
but
even
the
older.
definition. the
yeah,
definition
well,
of-
that's what I'm looking for. What
John,
the age
John.
of the building is.
The definition of your argument is well taken, but the definition for CPA purposes is that it's on the inventory or that the historical commission says that it's significant. And with those two requirements have been met.
Okay,
Whether we want to finance it, if we really feel strongly that this isn't our prerogative, we won't do this. We could take that attitude, but we could be challenged in court. And it isn't, it's a complicated situation because it's in a floodplain, it's in the historic district, it's a rather new building, it's a town-owned building, so there are a lot of complications. But we need the building, and we have the harbor master here, so Bill, go for it.
Well, first of all, thank you, Betty, and thank you, Deb, for basically summing everything up for me. This has been quite a journey, I have to say. I think, first of all, let me address Hugh's comment. As far as paying for this through the current budget that we are operating under, there is not nearly enough financial resources to do this. In fact, there's just about zero. The size of the budget that we have right now and what is left after the boating season is just about enough to get us through to the end of the fiscal year. I should say this, I went to FinCom the other night with the proposed budget to put that across to them. We will, assuming they approve all of this, and I feel good that they will, the size of the budget for next year will increase, I would say substantially. But those monies have to be targeted to other issues that are basically operational maintenance in general. So I think, Hugh, the question is a very good one. Why can't you handle it through your own budget? The budget simply is not big enough, sir, to handle this. And it's, I can say that with no qualms whatsoever. And that
kind of an answer. I just wanted to ask the question so we'll talk about it. Right.
Okay. All right. So the reason that I've gone down this path through CIPC and CPC is basically because of that. This is the only way we can get this funding to keep the building usable. My biggest fear is that if we go on 3-5 years down the road and nothing happens, we're going to be talking about a different kettle of fish, where we may have to replace a building that has deteriorated to that point. So I have to say the document that I got from you, Deb, was incredibly clarifying as far as the steps that need to be taken, and also, Betty, the information that you sent along about prevailing wage and ADA disability access has been very enlightening. This project is still, and as Betty mentioned, I'm kind of late to the show here. But having said that, there are aspects of this that we are still trying to figure out. I can tell you this much. The Historical Commission suggested, and rightfully so, that we have a building inspection done so that we are not putting cosmetics over a poor framework. To that end, I had Ralph come down, the building inspector, on Tuesday afternoon, I believe it was. He did what I would just call a cursory view of the building. There was nothing that he mentioned that we couldn't figure out ourselves just by crawling under the building. And he suggested we find a structural engineer to give it a better assessment. He did promise, though, to give us something in writing based on that inspection. So we have gone that far with it. As far as the disability access to it, I spoke to a gentleman named Ralph Cheeks yesterday. He's with the Mass Office of Disability. And I was trying to figure out, does this building, is it required to have disability access? And according to this gentleman, there is no doubt that it does. That is not included in the proposal. That obviously would increase the cost significantly. How much, I don't know yet. So that part has not been figured out. On top of that, the small piece of real estate that the building sits on kind of restricts where that ramp could go. There's only one way to go, and that's on the east side of the building. One of Deb's recommendations is that maybe this building should be raised 12 to 18 inches. I agree with that, but another 1.5 feet makes for a much longer ramp. So that's
Okay.
something we're going to have to get a lot more detail on about. And so I can do my due diligence and see what that would cost. And I think I mentioned that I've chased CIPC money with this, and obviously CPC with you folks. I would describe myself as a rank novice when it comes to projects like this. My world was in the private maritime world and not in the municipal world, so I have to say I'm probably prone to a couple of rookie mistakes. But what I've gotten again from Betty and from Deb has been extremely helpful. On top of that, the issue of prevailing wages, I had a little bit of a little basic knowledge about what they are, how they work. I know a lot more about them today than I did 48 hours ago. So I guess to sum it up, it is a proposal that still has more work to do. But in my view, this is a critical project, not just for the town, but for the historical district and for my staff to be able to operate out of. And I hope to get something going on in the next 12 months, whether it's through you folks or whatever other vehicles I can find to get this funded.
Bill, when you call the ADA, they will tell you, yes, it has to go. And then what you do is you appeal. And you go up to the ADA board and you appeal it.
So-
And you give them some alternatives as to what they might require, and they sometimes agree with you.
I'm sorry, Betty, I did not touch on that, but I kind of beat that one to death yesterday
Okay.
with Ralph. And his position was, it's a town office. The public needs to come in there to get permits, to communicate, to get information, so on and so forth. As such, you are required to have that. Now, he did mention that if the town decided that this building is for employees only, certainly they could do that, but you'd still have to apply for a variance, I guess is the term, where you wouldn't have to go down that road. So
Right.
that's something that we will explore as well.
Have you talked to the Disability Commission?
This Ralph Cheeks was with the Massachusetts Office of Disability.
I'm at Westport's Disability.
Oh, no, I haven't got there yet, Betty. I
They
have
might
not
be
got
able
there yet.
to help out on that.
Mhm.
Some questions?
Yes,
Tim Gillespie.
Yeah, I feel for you having to
I
deal
do
with this
too.
on such a minuscule building. It just seems silly. But in light of that, we definitely need a more formal project proposal than what we have. And we need 3 quotes. I don't know if this first person is an actual quote.
Tim, we don't need 3 quotes yet.
Okay.
We need 3 quotes if
All
they
right.
are approved, but
That is an actual quote, Tim. Mike Bernier he's done a lot of work around Westport. The full disclosure here, he is married to one of my cousins, so I know him from family experiences, but he is very good at what he does. And he's not afraid to charge for it either.
did this include prevailing wages?
It does not. I can tell you my experience with prevailing wages, Betty, is that, I had probably spoken to 3 different contractors. And as soon as that prevailing wage term comes up, they're like, yeah, no, we don't do that.
I know.
Is this number 40 7,000 or is it four? It looks like $475.
No, it's 47, Tim.
Okay.
47,000.
I thought I was losing my mind for just a
Yeah,
minute.
so we got two. This was one, obviously, and the work is laid out there. The other was a three-part estimate. It came from DeRoche Contractors. They do a lot of work over at the harbor, but they don't do HVAC and insulation. I had Richie's Insulation come down and give us an estimate there. And then the folks at Family HVAC, the outfit across from the old high school, they came down and gave an estimate for the heat pump. So those three total, don't quote me on this, 47, 48. I'm quite sure I submitted those to Betty as well.
40,298.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So a bit of a difference here in monies so far. But I think you would all agree that there's a lot more to be done here. And I know that time is of the essence. But I can tell you that I spent an awful lot of time on this because it is that important.
Hugh, did you want to say
You know,
something?
The only thing I'd offer is in terms of the small parcel of land you have, you're surrounded by other land. If you need to put a ramp or something elsewhere, you might be able to arrange an easement or something because the abutting is probably town land and cooperative, put it that way.
Duly noted, Hugh. Thank you.
So again, go back to a very important question, and Deborah, I don't know if you can weigh in on this or not, but the Historical Commission gave a lot of advice, but if a project is presented to the Historical Commission, they vote on that project. Isn't that correct? You don't tell them what they should do.
That's right.
Yeah,
we
so
have-
if they come to you with a specific list of, you would say, well, this is how this should be with this wood and stuff like that. Correct? Is that correct?
Yeah, that what they do is they provide us with an application. The application is very full of all kinds of detail about what's going to happen to the exterior of the building. If there's a ramp involved, then we would have an opinion about that too, but we would have, full application to review in order to give a certificate of appropriateness. Once that certificate is issued, work can commence 12 months later. The work can commence. It doesn't have to commence right away. And we could also extend an certificate if needed. So once the certificate is granted, they can take the time to, figure out contracting and other things with CPC and funding. We've been on that conversation. It's just what it looks like once it's planned, how the improvements will be.
So you're basically saying that the last meeting was recommendations. If he doesn't take all those recommendations and just does the things that we talked about, then he
It was
could
a
get
preliminary
certificate of-
review.
Pardon me?
Normally a preliminary review, the homeowner or the person comes to us with proposed plans. This one
Yeah.
was more open-ended, just questions
Yes.
about how do I approach this? And what are the things I have to worry about? And we gave him the guidelines and our little booklet that we have that gives it in plain English, what you have to look for. So it was really much more open-ended than a typical preliminary review, just to give some guidance.
Well, I just wanted to be clear and for the CPC to understand that if Bill comes in with a certain request to the Historical Commission, it's those requests that are considered. And they would be the same requests that would come to the CPC, is what I understand.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, the CPC is much more detailed because you're talking about funding, an air conditioner unit. We have no call on that, for example.
No, I don't mean, yes, but yes, but I mean, you would give your recommendation on things that are appropriate for you. But remember, that's for a certificate of appropriateness. That's why I
Right.
say this is very complicated because
Yeah, there's two parts. You're right. There's not
Yeah,
only the
that
certificate of
it's-
appropriateness, There's also
So-
the endorsement to the CPC.
So as far as ADA is concerned, he feels there's something is necessary, but you could approve these first steps, and he could do these first steps without making it ADA appropriate.
Yes.
And I don't, and so we give funding for what we call rehabilitation, which is one part of the historic rehabilitation, and that would be ADA. Okay. But the rest of it would be to preserve the building itself. So if you come in to preserve the building itself, you're only talking about certain parts. You're not talking about the fact it's in a floodplain and it's flooded and it's gonna flood and all that. Is that right? Are you?
That's right. We're not requiring that he considers inundation.
No, I'm
Yes.
asking Bill. I'm asking Bill.
Well, Betty, there are so many moving parts to this. I
What
guess,
is it- No, what is your wish list before all of this discussion started? What is the wish list?
well, the wish list is basically to make sure that the building stays sound. I'm sure we'd all agree that any building that has roof shingles missing has got trouble ahead. That's where we are. I would think anyone who sees rotting trim around the windows would see there's trouble ahead there, and there's probably water finding its way in somehow. So my wish list from the beginning was to button up the building and make sure it stays dry and has some sense of building integrity going into the future. So where that ultimately ends up, I don't know. This has been a journey, I have to say. But I just want to see the building solid, watertight, and with some measure of heat in it.
So you're also talking about a heat pump.
Yes. So what we have for heat right now are a couple of little electric heaters, which, we've gotten by with it for now, but, temperature drops a little bit more going into the winter. It's going to be uncomfortable in there. That's our only office. And, the things that we're doing this time of year, Rick and I are very busy in that building right now. It has to continue. It has to carry on as the harbor master's office. So in the beginning, I just said, wow, look at this building. We need to do something to seal it up. And that's what started me on this journey. So if there's a wish list out there, it's exactly that.
We would need to see the wish list. John?
Now, I don't know how long you've been there, but it doesn't seem like there's been any type of maintenance program for that building then.
I've been here since the second of.
You usually replace them. So it doesn't.
Yep, I would agree with that, John. I've been here since July 2nd.
Okay, yeah, so
That's the day that I was sworn in, and to your point, no, there has not been any maintenance. I think just one cursory look would take you to that conclusion. So we are playing catch up. There's no doubt about it, but we have to play catch up.
What's the town say?
Well, the town knows, obviously I've gone to CIPC. They are aware of it. I feel like sometimes I'm doing a political stump speech when I talk about it because it's the same thing over and over. The building is a mess. It's got to get squared away. We've got to chase funding. Everyone at Town Hall knows about it. That much I can tell you. And I continue to beat that drum.
Because you don't want to throw good money after bad if it is structurally compromised.
Oh, I absolutely agree with that, John. That's one of the reasons that we had Ralph down on Tuesday, but that's not the end of the inspection side of things. We still, it's tough to tell what is under the exterior shingles until you actually rip them off. I can tell you that we did discover the other day that the floor, which is basically, I guess, a 3/4 inch plywood, has got its issues as well.
Well, I know under like Hurricane Bob, it was the bottom of it was underwater.
No, it had to be. I would imagine it's probably been underwater a few times since.
Sometimes, yeah.
Bill,
So-
Bill, the plans for that would have gone through the historical commission. So Deborah could probably find those plans. It also, the building department keeps plans quite far back. So you
Mhm.
could find out what they put there. At least you'd
Okay.
know that. I'd just like to say that the whole issue of flooding is an issue for the whole lower point. It's coming up more and more within the Mass Historic Commission. They're having different seminars and things about it. And if you remember, we gave CPA recommended quite a bit of funding for the Lee's Wharf. It gets extremely flooded in hurricanes, as you all has probably seen, like 3 and 4 feet. This issue didn't come up. We didn't discuss this issue. I wasn't in the commission. I just saw that it wasn't discussed. What the base of it looked like, and I don't know whatever happened. It could be that they went ahead and they repaired it. So I mean, I'd just like to know what CPC thinks we should advise Bill right now. What this timing is so limited. But I'd like somebody's opinion on this right now. Hugh?
Always glad to offer an opinion. I think this is next year's project. I don't mean that because I'm against it, quite the contrary. But it seems to me there are an awful lot of pieces bouncing around, and awfully hard for Phil or anybody else involved in it to actually get them in line and have an idea of where you end up. One thing that crosses my mind is nothing we do about hurricanes. That's there, we can't build for that. But maybe marine grade plywood or something for the floor or other things intended occasionally to be underwater. And if it can withstand that and dry out and keep on functioning perfectly well, that's great. That may be pie in the sky, I understand. Once it gets wet, too bad. But anyway, that's part of the evaluation of the project and where it can go, in my opinion.
Tim?
I think they should turn it into a boat and hook it up to a mooring so it can't go anywhere.
Well,
The thing that occurs to me is that if they put together a proposal just for the structure, just for the building, what Bill's described, the siding, the roof, insulation, and heat, ADA compliance can be addressed at a separate time. And ADA compliance, you can achieve that with these aluminum ramps that are not astronomically unavailable. I don't see why they can't put a proposal through that. Don't worry about ADA compliance at this stage. Let's just get the building restored and saved, and then it's worth making it ADA compliant. That's what occurs to me. Just confine it to these simple tasks. I mean, this is not a complicated project. If you just look at the building, and eventually with 3 good bids, I think you'll get a number that's reasonable. I think some of these numbers are a little high, but I guess with prevailing wage, what do you know? Maybe it's going to be $50,000. I don't know. But that's what I would recommend, is just confine yourself to the very specific things that the building needs to survive, and don't worry about this other stuff.
we also spoke of, for their comfort, also, a heat pump.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's to make it livable. And for right now, you're basically saying, don't worry about the flooding. Do that next year. Talk
Yeah.
about that next
Well,
year.
This building is so tiny. If you did, I don't know if you're gonna, the electrical that would come to it in order to support a heat pump system, whether you'd have to upgrade the electric service or not. I'm just wondering, you don't have plumbing there, right?
No.
No.
So you could raise the building even after it's been
Yeah.
rehabilitated.
Yep,
You know that
exactly.
basically every public building must have bathrooms and running water. So
Let's not go there.
so I'm just saying that and this is an issue in Westport, and it's slowly they've been developing. That's why I said to go to the local disability commission. They know a lot about how this works. But there are other buildings around that have the same issues.
But the fact that it doesn't have plumbing, maybe it qualifies it as an exception to the rule,
Right.
where it really isn't a public building because it doesn't have plumbing.
That's a great,
Maybe therefore it doesn't need ADA compliance.
Tim, I happen to have appeared before I think it's the Gas Pipe Fitters Committee in Boston and on the Handy House. And I said we had no running water and there were no bathrooms in it. And they said there has to be one, period, Miss Slade. Period.
Well, this
Every
building isn't any
public
bigger than
building,
a
every
bathroom.
public
That's
So, the question is, do we worry about that as a committee, or do we just try to upgrade what is there and see what happens? And I think you're kind of saying, Tim, that we should think about this and suggest that they try to get their basic information together and come back in January with it. Go to the historical commission and come back in January. Is that what you're saying?
basically, yes.
Okay, Phil has a comment. Phil,
Well, because we have issues with other buildings down at that location. Of course, running water, having plumbing assumes you have running water, which assumes that you have a well. And I tend to agree with the direction that Tim is going. Or you would need to have a water tank,
yes.
to provide the water. I don't know the name of the oyster place there, but it's seasonal, so you can have porta-johns if you under the Board of Health regulations, if you're a seasonal facility. So, which arguably this building might be, except for when the public might need to use it. So I think once you get to running water, you get into a lot of issues.
Yes,
Then you get into then you get into, bathrooms require septic systems.
Yeah.
It's just not,
It's very complicated. That's right.
no, it's not really. Just don't do it.
Well, what I mean is the regulations versus what's reasonable.
Yeah.
Sometimes and that's true for this building. I think Tim had his hand up again.
I was just going to say that this thing is more like a kiosk than a building.
Yes, I
Yeah.
know.
And
Oh, I
that
was gonna say,
should be
What a
different.
surprise. What a surprise the regulations are not reasonable.
So does anybody else have any suggestions? Tim has suggested that we suggest to Bill that he go to the historical commission with the certain key elements that he needs, get his appropriateness certificate, and then come to us on January 8th. Is anybody opposed to that? Hugh said you thought he should wait. And my question is, Hugh, do you think maybe he should give it a try?
I'm sorry, I'm not opposed to it. I was just saying it may take more time to develop, get the things in order than ready to go around in January. Sure, do the pieces as they go. And as far as flooding is concerned, this is probably high in the sky, but it might be possible to build up the sides enough with something water resistant so it could in fact resist the occasional flooding that takes place. That goes into the whole stuff that's being developed as to what to do. Just a thought.
Shouldn't we make sure the building is sound before, even like before we do anything?
Yeah, agreed. That's where we start.
Well, I would just say I am in a historic building, 1776, and all the builders have told me my building is not sound. So, and we just keep propping it up, propping it up, propping it up, and we do it from the inside, you know, so you don't have any inside. So small.
I would add to that list that my family's house there, the old house farm down toward the river. We were told at one point that the chimney was holding the house up.
Look, we could put an historical trailer down there so you can move it during bad weather.
Anyway, it looks to me like nobody is opposed to giving Bill the chance to come in with an application. Bill, it will not be 40,000. I'm sure it's going to be more.
I'm quite sure of that as well,
So,
Betty.
and I understand Deborah has offered to help you. And if
Yes.
anything else that other people can do, maybe you can find a volunteer who knows this kind of thing. I've heard Martha Sullivan talk about somebody. Might talk with Martha. You might find a volunteer who will just do this for you.
Well, I did, Deb reached out via email, day before yesterday, I guess. It was yesterday, I'm sorry. And she gave me all of this and said, hey, I'm here to help, whatever you need. I was out on the river today for most of the day, taking in, buoys and whatnot. So I did not get to any of this, today. But it looks like, the holiday season is going to be pretty busy for me
Yes,
in
yes.
this regard, and I'm fine with all of that. A little context here. Rick and I talk about this a lot, like how far do we want to go with this? Are we going to knock ourselves out before we finally figure out that we just can't get any funding? Why don't we just give it to the town? I don't, that's not how I operate.
What do you mean, give it to the town?
Well, in other words, it's a town building.
Yes.
It's a mess. Come fix it. That would be, I guess, a cynical approach to
Yes,
all of
yes,
this.
you don't
right?
want to do that, Bill.
No, that's not me, Betty. That's not why I operate, and that's one of the reasons why I'm in front of you good folks tonight. So, if I could, as far as the timelines, I think Deb said the 17th of December, I need to have the application in. That's not even a week away. To the Historical Commission. They will review it, and then that would put me on the agenda for you on January 7th. Did I get all that right?
8th, I believe it
January
is.
8th. All right, so 12/17 and Jan 8. Okay.
Because once you get it approved on the 2nd, I believe it'll be of January at the Historical Commission meeting, you can send it to us immediately, and that
Okay.
gives you in time.
Okay.
But
Those
those are the reasons I was saying, don't kill yourself to get something to do that when there's so many pieces that have to be put together
Yeah.
to actually deal with it.
Mhm.
It may be next year that you can do it rationally without killing yourself.
Yeah.
Well, that's the good advice, Hugh.
That's your decision, Bill.
Well, I think I've gone this far down this road, down this path. I need to see this to a conclusion. I guess to me, the tipping point would be if I can't make that December 17th deadline for Deb, then
Yes.
that's probably as far as we can go this
Yeah.
year. And then to Hugh's point, let's, reset and look forward for next year. I have learned, I think as we all know, that municipal government moves very slowly. I'm not the kind of guy that move that slow. So I really want to push this along to the best that I can. And again, if we can't make these deadlines, then we can't.
I checked into the total applications for CIPC. It's like 5.3 million. And they're going to have between 1.5 and 1.8 million. So there's a lot of competition there.
Yeah, which is why I'm here. I have to, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. CIPC has to this point, broken down all the proposals into ones, twos, and threes. This project is one of their number ones, but as you just alluded to, the number ones total up a whole lot more than what is actually available. So I think when the music stops, somebody's going to be missing a seat. I don't want to be that guy, so I'm going to do whatever I can otherwise to get it done. But so there is some positive movement there, but all that being said, we've still got to go through the historical commission anyway.
Okay,
So
okay. Well, thank you, Bill. Good luck.
thank you all very much and happy holidays to all of you. Thank you for taking the time and thank you all for your support and your comments and expertise. It's most appreciated.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Bye now.
So the next application is the Affordable Housing Trust Project Support. We got this project in October. Since then, there were some questions that were asked of the commissions, and I understand Leonardi Arai is here. Is he here?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Leonardi.
Hi, everybody.
So, could you, I don't think we have any preliminary questions. You go ahead and get started. What is it
Okay,
you want to do?
also want to acknowledge that Craig Dutra is here, who's the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust
Good.
and a member of the select board. And thank you for moving me up to the 8 p.m. slot because I have an earlier commitment. The bad news is that you are tired and you felt that you already ran out of money. So
No.
So, I would like to go through a little bit of background about, I don't know if I should share my screen or you will bring it up there, the presentation that I sent, Betty.
Yeah, bring it up.
Isn't it there? I'm
you-
looking at it.
No, that's just the application.
That's a different one. He's going to do a PowerPoint.
Oh.
Tim, so you can pull out, Tim.
Yeah, so let me, okay. Here it is. All right, Tim, you have told me many times to be brief.
Yes, please.
But I've been asked to go in details here. So can everybody see my screen?
Yes, I can.
And can you hear me well?
Yes, I don't know. I can.
All right, good. So, the Westport Affordable Housing Trust Fund was created at town meeting in 2010 with the mission to help people with low and moderate incomes afford the cost of housing in Westport. And the trust has been doing that by converting existing buildings to become affordable housing, find a way to lower the cost of housing in town for residents in need, and build affordable housing. Most notorious, most of you are familiar with Nokochok Village. On the left, you can see the members of the trust. Like I said, Craig Dutra is there. We have members that are bankers, people that have been involved with the town for many years, real estate people. So a lot of knowledgeable people on this trust. So the first thing that I would like to highlight is that the trust has been very involved with housing production efforts in the housing production plan in Westport. In fact, the trust sponsored 3 housing production plans before the current one. And what you see on the left are the strategies that the housing production plan has listed to achieve their housing goals. And to the right are the activities and programs that the trust has been doing that are in sync with those strategies. So, for instance, create subsidized housing inventory units. So those are units that are deed restricted home for low and moderate income household. If you look at what we call a small scale development, and I can go in details to each one of these programs, lines up pretty well with that goal. Number 5, which is the land acquisition program, or providing funding for developers to create new housing, that does create subsidized or SHI units. And I have a typo because number 3 should be included there because the Housing Opportunity Purchase Program helps also to create SHI units. There's a discussion on the housing production plan about creating zoning amendments that is the path to create affordable housing. With support from the Housing Assistance Office, we can achieve that to a certain extent. The idea of preserving existing housing opportunity so people can remain of their home, and also preserving the character and the scale of existing homes in town. If you look at program, Housing Opportunity Purchase Program and the Housing Rehabilitation Program, which we have two types, and I can't go in details on that, are in total in sync with that. Adult retirement community, I could argue the land acquisition can help on that, but really the trust has no directly create programs that support adult retirement community, so I will pass on that one. Accessibility and age in place. I heard a little bit of the past programs here, and there's a lot of concern about accessibility, not only for people aging in place, but young individuals may have limited mobility. The housing rehabilitation program is actually designed to support those needs, particularly for people with low income. Community outreach, the trust through the Housing Assistance Office have taken various initiatives to educate the community and stakeholder and town reps about what it means to provide affordable housing and the importance of doing that. Adaptive use of municipal buildings and underutilized land. There are opportunities within the programs that the trust have, including the small scale development. The trust currently have control of a couple of town-owned lands that may be an opportunity for that. And as you know, Nokochok Village, the town purchased that land and then was used for affordable housing. I'm not going to mention the high school, but that's something that can be discussed later. And creating this maintaining the restricted existing home. So that's something that the trust on the last couple of years is working really hard, conscious that funding has been put to create affordable housing. Now we want to preserve those restricted homes. So I will go into each one of the programs at your leisure. But again, similar to the housing production plan, the trust is working to serve people earning up to 80% of the area median income. Those are what are classified as a low-income household, and those are households that are target for subsidized housing inventory units. If you look at a household of 4 people making $91,450, that's the population that the trust will be serving. If you want to look at it in a very traditional way, if you want to call it that way, mom and dad and 2 kids, $91,450 may not sound like a lot of money, but somebody's working or both parties are working and they have a job that provides some income, but not enough to cover the cost of housing. On the marketplace, the affordable price for a 3-bedroom home is about $300,000. Based on the housing production plan information, the median sale price of a 3-bedroom is $440,000 back in 2022. So you can see that there's a gap clearly there in what people can afford in certain income and what the market has to offer. The small scale development. So the way it works is the trust look at opportunities to develop a small scale development. That is 1 family, 2 family, 3 family, very limited size. By the way, the trust does not develop. The trust helps to fund, help to acquire land. On this case here, you're probably familiar with the Habitat for Humanity on Southern Road. The trust worked its way to acquire a former Chapter 61A land and then provided funding to Habitat for Humanity to create this very successful homeownership opportunity for 2 families. The Housing Opportunity Purchase Program, the trust to date have created 3 of those homes. The way it works is that the trust will provide a grant to qualify home buyers. when they're purchasing an existing market rate home in town. So this doesn't involve any construction, new construction permits or anything. These are homes that are out there for sale. We're not asking anybody to sell their home. It is people that are already offering to sell their home. And what the trust does is to fill the gap what those qualified low-income households can afford in that gap in the market. Like we said, those $140,000. Last time we did in 2021, the gap was actually $175,000. But those 3 homes are now on the subsidized housing inventory. They're restricted in perpetuity. So in exchange for that grant, people get a restriction on the resale value of that property. And the home that you saw today is not going to change because capital improvement are pretty much not permitted. You don't get a developer that is going to build 3 units there or a big mansion or something like that. Then we have the housing rehabilitation program, which it does is to help people to stay in home. It could be an elderly that has been living there for many years and may need an access ramp when you have a leaky roof. So these are relatively modest programs that are trying to address sanitary conditions or code violations. Or we have some situations where, there are septics that are collapsing. There's a lot of trash that are being accumulating in their yard, and the trust have worked through this program. Now, this program has not been funded with CPA funds. The administration has been done through CPA, but the funds were recovered from a former CDBG program. So we're reusing those funds to create a housing rehab program. So before I go to that, so now the trust is starting a program that is a housing rehabilitation program for the restricted home. And this is part of the request today, the $60,000. So private developers have created homeownership affordable units. The trust has supported affordable homeownership. Now we wanted to create a program that people can feel comfortable to tap in these resources and maintain these restricted units. And as you know, No Control Village, I believe most people have a pretty good impression of this development. So the trust is working through the land acquisition program to be ready, available to purchase a land and then being able to offer it to a developer to create quality, affordable housing. Like I said, there's other opportunities out there of reusing existing buildings. It could be the high school if that opportunity comes to play, but I just want to highlight the case in Salem where a former school has been converted into affordable housing. So I went as quick as I could, so Kim is happy, doesn't say that I'm taking too long. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
What about how much money are you asking for? You have to remind me of that.
$300,000, $40,000 for the housing assistant office, $60,000 for one of the housing rehabilitation program that is going to be directly to existing restricted homes, and to add additional funding to potentially acquire a new land. So one of the challenges, compared to the different projects that you discussed that are eligible projects, just like these affordable housing projects are eligible, is that these are market-driven projects, right? We don't have a list of property owners that are ready to sell the land. We don't know, the trusts have to be subject to procurement law. So we have to issue an RFP to find somebody that wants to sell the land to the trust. And we actually did that recently. The trust received one proposal, but the trust also determined that it was not feasible. So we don't know when that proposal is going to come by. So what the trust needs to be ready is to be able to participate on that market. Same thing with the housing rehab program. We put a lot of advertising there. We put flyer. We reach out directly with direct mail. We put press releases, ads, and all that. And maybe one year you have 2 applicants. The next year you may have 5, and maybe you have 3, but the project doesn't meet the project guidelines. On the housing rehab program, remember, it is a forgivable loan, right? So the idea is that people can use those funds to stay home, not to use the funds, fix their home, and live. So
Hugh,
Larry, could you give us some idea of what is currently accumulated in your existing accounts? I know it is added on from year to year, but what is the present balance in each of them before any new appropriation?
the current balance is about $1,100,000.
of which,
Oh, how do we distribute it? So
Yes.
that, and I would like to submit this separately, but I'm gonna, as you know, the town accountant have gone through a new accounting system. So I just received for the first time the trial balance, but the total balance of the trust right now is about $1,100,000. Most of those are allocated for the land acquisition program. About $150,000 are for the small scale development program. Another, I want to say $100,000. I don't have those exact number in front of me, for the housing rehab, and about $45,000 for the office.
Now, is that fund generally available for anything, or is it allocated into specific buckets?
So the biggest earmark line item is the land acquisition program.
Yeah, I understand that, but is that restricted to land acquisition?
Yes,
Or
that
could you
one is
apply
the only
others
one
to
that we agree with CPC.
separate things?
Yeah, that's the only one that we can use. The other funds are a little bit like, Betty call it fungible.
Okay, thank you.
actually, in several years ago, funds were allocated in just a general
Yes.
bucket, but we have begun a little bit tighter and saying 40,000 for one thing, 65,000 for another, and we put them into buckets. And
Correct.
the big bucket is the land acquisition, and the way that the Affordable Housing Trust is interpret that is for 30 or more units.
Yeah.
Yes.
At least I see. I think that was your interpretation of it. This would be questions. I think Deborah might have some questions, but I've also been approaching the coalition to see if you wanted to use, if with a CPC's agreement, you wanted to use that for other purposes, could CPC give you the authority just through its own to allocate it to something else, like the high school? Or could we interpret the work at the high school as more than 30 units? And so but I was told that if it's in our handouts at town meeting, restricted to land acquisition. But I read through some of those reports that we gave. Well, let me straight. When we do a handout at town meeting, that is part of our motion, it turns out. So I looked at the wording of the motion, and I've sent this to the coalition asking them, given the wording of that, could we possibly use it for other purposes? I haven't heard back, as I've told you before. It'll be next week. And that goes into the question of your cooperation with the housing production plan, Leonardi. And Deborah, you haven't left, I assume? Has she gone?
Here.
Anyway, so one of the questions that she has is, are you coordinating with the housing production plan? And two, are you thinking seriously, trying to see if there can be some element of affordable housing in the reuse of the old high school?
So the trust in, if Craig is here, he maybe want to answer on behalf of the trust. So the trust realized at one point that there was no appetite for housing on that site, right? So, the trust doesn't have control of that site, right? Like any other property, right? So there's only so much the trust can do about it. If a housing program comes to play to that site, I think the trust will be the perfect vehicle to support that. But, as far as I understand, the town have looked into other uses that are non-housing uses, right? So I think the trust, by the way, have the full capacity to support a housing scenario at the high school. But again, it's not up to the trust to decide what to do with that property.
Right now, we're on a somewhat of a parallel path with the long-term building committee process. And we've had some discussions with the planning board and with the long-term building committee. And I think there's a growing realization that we should have the ability for potential proposals for that complex, so to speak, that would also include affordable housing. But based upon some of that's going to require a look at the septic capacity of that property. And obviously that you have a lower septic capacity need for that property if you're using it mostly for office buildings. When you put housing as part of the mix, the need for septic increases somewhat significantly. So those are the variables. So, personally, and I'm speaking as a member of both committees, but as a spokesperson for none, that we're open to scenarios that would mean that we would sort of redefine what our parameters are for a project. So we might look at it and say, well, the 30 unit threshold that we were talking about with that particular bucket of money is not practical if we're going to do something with a mixed use development.
That was my question, Craig. That was what I'm trying to determine, if you can use that funding. For example, I mean, I know you've gone, just a second, Hugh. You have been talking to the planning board, and they're
Yes, we
very
have.
much supportive of the idea that I understand of some housing within that project. But the
Correct.
committee itself, the long-term building committee, has already suggested what they want to do with the building, right?
That is correct.
And are you trying to get them to change their minds? Is the planning board trying to put some pressure, and what does the Board of Selectmen say about that?
I think, well, there was a presentation before the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
I wouldn't say that, I think the select board is somewhat divided on even the charge to the long-term building committee with respect to the use of the land. And the introduction of the Affordable Housing Trust, I think you have to look at the tape, but we had a mixed vote, and I had a motion that failed. There were some other motions, so what we had was sort of a compromise motion on an idea that to keep this thing open, but to allow the long-term building committee to complete the work that it had set forth to do, and then at some point in time have the project, and we very may well, I think, Leonardi, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is on our agenda next week to discuss the idea of issuing an RFP in conjunction with jointly with the planning board that would look at housing uses, housing components for the high school property.
Craig, would the funding, would you turn that over to a private sector group to do? Is that what?
Well, that's how we did in Okeechobee Village. We
Yes,
used an organization called Community Builders.
Yes. So it would not be something that would have to be paid for by the taxpayers.
No,
So this would be the use of the building for private sector. I remember there was a study done years ago.
I mean, let's put it this way. If we're using some of the money we have for property acquisition
Yes,
to do that, yes, the taxpayer is paying through our CPC budget for those types of things. But for that kind of project to work, we're going to need some subsidies. Now, part of the subsidies may be the value of the property. Other parts of the subsidy may be tax credits and grants that individual developers would bring to the equation.
and do the work and take it
Yeah.
over.
Yes.
So that would mean that the high school would be partially town operated and partially private operated. Would you?
In a broader way, just even beyond housing, I think that that's one way of doing that property is to look at other institutions that need space of that nature and be willing to do that. And I can think of, without going, I've already given them out publicly, but I think there's some fairly large institutions in our region that may, with some encouragement, look at making that part of their expansion plans.
You mean that's not affordable housing though?
Well, it would be a combination of both.
Okay. But the project that you're submitting to us today it doesn't include any of that. I mean,
No.
what you're asking for, except for the fact that if you could utilize the funding in the large scale
Development,
you
and
could
then
use
we,
that funding. Leonardi, let's get Leonardi wanted to say something. We'll get back to you, Hugh. Leonardi.
Yes, I just want to, technically clarify is that, the 30 units is not a random number. Is
It is a
because
random number.
anything below that, it is much harder to secure funding from other sources. So
Aha.
the larger the projects are, the more you can tap in other resources. Otherwise, the resources are going to have to be local. So that's when those small scale housing development becomes a challenge, right? And yes, like Craig said, anything that the trust is involved will be through a private developer, just like Okeechobee, just like Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah.
I also want to clarify that we call it the land acquisition program, but what is written on the application make reference to supporting developments through pre-engineering and all these kind of things.
Good.
So I think there's a little bit of flexibility on that.
Yeah,
So-
actually, if the town meeting, the information we put out said that, basically. So I wanted to see if I could find it. It does give flexibility, and CPC can, it doesn't have to go to town meeting if CPC agrees. Okay, Hugh.
I was just gonna say that as far as the old high school is concerned, there are a variety of different opinions of what should be done with it. There's no unanimity that it should go into low-income housing. But the question I asked a while ago was, what have the actual expenditures been during the past fiscal year for the various categories that were itemized recently?
So the expenditure has been on the housing rehab program, running the office, and also the trust issue an RFP to potentially acquire a piece of land. And that involved, writing an RFP, advertising it, and reviewing the proposal. Actually, the trust advertised it twice. And we had the opportunity to review a potential option, but it didn't look viable. And we always have inquiries for the housing rehab program, but we're cautious of how to select those cases. One of those, just to illustrate how the programs are running, but may not work on a given time. We had an application where
I didn't mean to ask you to do all that. I'm really looking for dollar numbers that were spent. I do understand that the office is a continuing expense.
Yeah.
But it goes to actual expenditures rather than categories, dollars.
I will have to put it together, but
But the
most of the
land,
expenditure,
the land acquisition, they haven't spent
we haven't spent any. Yeah.
any of that.
Okay. How
So
about the others?
So that's why now the trust is starting to add more funding to that program. So now it can be a more effective program. When you put an RFP out there to ask landowners to offer their land, now you can compete on the market.
Well, what have been spent in the other buckets that you mentioned?
The housing rehab program. So I believe, because I just saw the report early today, the trust has spent like 36,000 from July to now. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I'm glad you asked. The trust owns a piece of land from the town,
yes,
and we were looking at the possibility to creating another Habitat for Humanity development, right? A small scale development. So we hire a contractor, an engineering firm, to do some pre-development, define the wetland, and it turns out that the site doesn't perk.
oh,
Yeah,
oh,
but we have to do the homework, right, before you issue an RFP. So
that's the
those are-
school street?
Yes, correct.
Oh, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I think, my understanding is that there have been some changes on the town, on the requirement, and they're a little more restrictive in the site didn't perk. We tried that a few years ago, but the season that when the perk tests were done were inconclusive. But this time, I think there's no doubt that given the, what Title V is and the requirement of the town, doesn't meet the requirements. The soils don't perk to meet the Title V requirements.
Phil, could I have a
So-
comment from you on that? Phil Weinberg? You just pretending you're there? Phil?
Well, his microphone is off.
His microphone is off, I know, but he could hear us. Anyway, I'm sure that's true. Deborah, you're gone? 'Cause I know she had a lot of questions. But basically, do you think that the possibility of housing by developers at the old school is dead or alive? Craig?
I would say it's alive in that there is a lot of interest in this among the community. The question is, can we find, and I appreciate Leonardo sort of correcting me on the fact that we do have scale requirements that guide this, but there could be. But I think that we need to look at some of the see what we get for this proposal that we're going to be RFP that we hope to draft. It's either going to be an RFP or an RFI, and it would be a joint project of the planning board and the select board, although that has not been approved by, I don't know about the planning board, but it's not been approved by the select board.
Craig, what pot of money would you use to finance this?
We'd look for a broader interpretation on the acquisition. In that there were
It's pre-development costs. It's pre-development costs.
pre-development costs, yes.
I was asked by the chair of the long-term building committee what I personally thought about the use of CPA funds for this. Was it possible? And I said, yes, I think it is. But I will look into it further. and I will know next week a little more, but thinking about the fact that you all have put the 30 unit requirement, one thing, and the fact that the handouts at town meetings are broader. It includes development, pre-development cost, and that's what this would be.
Yes.
So you may have to go through that account, which is all right with me. I don't know about others. Is everybody too tired? Are there any other questions? Hugh, do you want them to come back next month with answer to your question about exact expenditures?
No, I think we've gone down that road far enough. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Let's move on, shall we?
Okay.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay. Thank you, Leonardi.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So, my question is, for you guys, and I'd like a vote on this. First of all, can I do a vote of all of them or just go through them and wait for a hold? I would like to, try to take them all as in one fell swoop and see if you want to pass these on to the meeting next month.
Betty, is there enough of us here to vote?
1, 2, I don't know. There are 7 people that I don't know who are there. Maria, who's here?
You have 5 members right now.
Who are they? I know it's
Tim,
John,
you, yeah, Hugh, John, and Philip.
Phil.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion?
I would move that we move all of them to the next meeting, but I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Wait.
But do we need that? Can I just say that?
Yes,
That's what I move. We move them all to the next meeting.
we move all of the application submissions to the next meeting, January 8th.
Yeah.
There a second?
I'm going to second it for discussion.
Who's that?
John
John.
Bell, yeah.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I think we should move it to the next meeting so we at least have more people than, I think it's just the 4 of us here, right?
No, there's 5. Phil is somewhere there. He's still there, I think.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, he's there. Good,
We
good.
woke them up.
Oh, we woke you up. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say your name. Deborah? She's not there. John?
John Bell, aye.
Phil?
Phil Weinberg, aye.
Tim?
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Hugh?
Hugh Morton, aye.
Betty? Aye. Okay, everybody's very tired.
Betty, can I propose we approve the minutes and then adjourn?
Yes. Yes, but I need to make a couple of announcements. Is that okay? Is there a motion to approve the minutes as written of November 13th,
I
2000?
move they be approved as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Hugh Morton.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Deborah, not there. John,
John Bell, aye.
Phil,
Phil Weinberg, aye.
Tim,
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
Betty, aye, that's unanimous. All right. In the next meeting will be January 8th. We will have a public hearing, okay, on these projects. At the end of the public hearing, we do a regular meeting, and at that meeting, we make our decisions. In the next meeting, I will tell you whether or not the funding's available. It is. Okay, but I will tell you, the next meeting we will have a February meeting. And I will bring the handouts for town meeting, the funding, all of that to that meeting. The second thing we need to do on the 8th is we need to have you say any comment you have on the annual report. You received the annual report, but we didn't put it into the agenda. So take a look at the annual report. If that's okay with you, we will present that. I have to do it the 8th because it's due the 20th. At least normally it's due the 20th. At the February meeting, besides the stuff for town meeting, I would like reports by the liaisons on all the outstanding projects that they are part of. So that's February. And we will look at the role of the liaisons because we've written up a new guideline for liaisons, but we need to look at it and questions need to be asked about contracts and all that kind of stuff. We will also decide on whether we will be sweeping the funds. There's one fund with 60 cents in it. I think we should sweep it. So things like that. So I will write to you about all of this, but I just wanted you to hear it now. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Tim Gillespie
Tim.
says.
Second?
Second, John
Bell,
Bell.
you second?
Yeah, John Bell, second.
All those in favor?
John Bell, aye.
John Bell, okay.
Tim
Phil,
Gillespie, aye.
Bill Weinberg, aye.
you,
Here, one eye.
Betty, aye, that's unanimous. Thank you very
Good
much,
night, everybody.
everybody. Merry Christmas,
Merry Christmas,
Happy
everybody.
New Year.